The ground shook for 3 days straight. Every seismic sensor on Kepler 442b screamed warnings as something massive crashed into the planet's northern continent. The impact crater stretched 20 miles across, and steam rose from the center like a geyser that touched the clouds. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the transport ship's window as they flew toward the crash site. Below, the landscape looked like someone had dropped a small moon from space, which, according to the readings, wasn't far from the truth. "Holy hell," muttered Jake Morrison, the team's equipment specialist. "Look at the size of that thing." In the center of the crater lay something that defied easy description. It looked like a whale crossed with a starship, but bigger than either. Much bigger. The creature's hide shimmered with dying lights, patterns of blue and silver that pulsed slowly across its massive form. Sarah estimated it was at least 2 miles long. "It's still alive," she whispered. The pilot, a gruff man named Rodriguez, shook his head. "Barely. Whatever that thing is, it won't be breathing much longer." Other ships circled the crater like vultures. The sleek vessels of the Zenthari gleamed like chrome needles. The angular warships of the Kethvar bristled with weapons even during a scientific mission. The organic-looking craft of the Keth pulsed with their own strange rhythms. All 3 alien species had beaten the humans to the site by hours. That wasn't unusual. Human ships were slower, their technology less advanced. What Sarah saw through her binoculars made her stomach turn. The aliens were already working on the creature, but they weren't trying to help it. Zenthari cutting teams sliced into the creature's hide with precision lasers. They moved like surgeons, but they were harvesting, not healing. Chunks of crystalline bone and glowing organs disappeared into their cargo holds. The Kethvar were less careful. Their massive mining equipment tore into the creature's side, ripping out anything that looked valuable. Their warriors stood guard, weapons ready, as if the dying beast might somehow fight back. The Keth swarmed over the creature's head like ants. Their hive mind allowed perfect coordination as they drilled into what looked like sensory organs, extracting fluids that sparkled like liquid diamonds. All of them ignored the creature's obvious distress. Waves of something that felt like pain washed over Sarah's mind every few seconds. She wasn't psychic, but the creature's agony was so intense it leaked into the thoughts of anyone nearby. "We need to land now," Sarah said. Rodriguez looked at her like she was crazy. "Doc, there's no room down there. And even if there was, what are we going to do? That thing is the size of a city. We're going to help it." "Help it what? Defesta?" Sarah didn't answer. She was already checking their medical supplies. The human research team had brought equipment for studying alien life forms, not for performing emergency surgery on something that could swallow their entire ship. But they had to try. The transport set down on the crater's rim. Sarah's team piled out, Rodriguez with his engineering tools, Jake with the scanning equipment, Dr. Lisa Park with what medical supplies they had, and 6 other researchers who looked as overwhelmed as Sarah felt. A Zenthari administrator approached them. The tall gray alien moved with mechanical precision. "Dr. Chen, you are late to arrive." "We came as soon as we got the signal," Sarah replied. "What's the situation?" "The specimen is dying. We estimate 6 hours before complete neural shutdown. We have extracted approximately 40% of valuable materials. The Kethvar have claimed 30%. The Keth have taken the remaining 30%. "What about helping it?" The Zenthari's large black eyes blinked slowly. "Help? The creature is beyond repair. Its organs are failing. Its skeletal structure is compromised. Death is inevitable. You don't know that. We haven't even tried to— Dr. Chen!" The alien's voice carried a tone that might have been pity. "Your species' emotional attachment to suffering creatures is well documented. But logic must prevail. This entity possesses materials worth more than most star systems. Sentiment cannot override practical necessity." Sarah felt another wave of pain from the creature. This close, it was like someone driving nails into her skull. "You're torturing it. We are harvesting resources from a dying specimen. The creature's nervous system will cease function within hours. Our actions cause no additional harm." "No additional harm?" Sarah stared at the alien. "Can't you feel what it's going through?" "I detect neural activity consistent with pain responses." "This is irrelevant. The specimen will die regardless of our actions." Sarah turned away from the Zenthari and looked at the creature. Up close, it was even more impossible than it had seemed from the air. Its hide rippled with colors she had no names for. Structures that might have been breathing vents opened and closed along its sides. The patterns of light under its skin formed complex geometries that reminded her of circuit boards. A HFY warrior stomped over. The 8-foot-tall alien wore power armor that made him look like a walking tank. "Human, you block our mining path. Move your small ship." "We're here to help the creature," Sarah said. The HFY made a sound that might have been laughter. "Help? Ha! Your weak species cannot even help yourselves. You crawl between stars in slow ships. You die from diseases we cured millennia ago. What help can you offer something this magnificent?" "We can try." "Try what? Your primitive medicine? Your crude tools?" The warrior gestured at the creature. "This being has organs we do not understand, bones made of materials that exist nowhere else in the galaxy. It is dying because it is damaged beyond any hope of repair. Even if your entire species worked together, you could not save it. Maybe not, but we won't know unless we try." The HFY warrior studied her for a long moment. "Your species is either very brave or very stupid. I have not decided which." A group of Keth drones buzzed around Sarah's head. They spoke in unison, their voices creating an eerie harmony. "The human mind thinks in patterns we do not comprehend. The specimen entity will cease function soon. Why do the humans small waste effort on the impossible task?" Sarah looked at her team. They were setting up equipment, taking readings, doing everything they could to understand the creature's condition. Rodriguez was already modifying their tools, trying to figure out how to help something so massive. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said. The Keth drones made clicking sounds. "Right thing? This concept has no practical application. The specimen entity provides maximum benefit through resource extraction. Attempting repair function wastes time, energy, materials. Not everything is about profit. All things are about survival efficiency. Your species will learn this truth fact or face extinction end." The aliens returned to their harvesting. Sarah walked closer to the creature's head. The being's eye was larger than her entire ship. As she approached, the eye moved slightly, focusing on her. For a moment, the waves of pain stopped. Something else touched Sarah's mind. Not pain this time, but curiosity. And maybe, just maybe, hope. "Dr. Chen," Rodriguez called out. "I've got some readings. This thing's biology is unlike anything we've ever seen. Its cellular structure is more complex than a quantum computer. And Doc, I think it's trying to communicate." Sarah placed her hand on the creature's hide. The skin felt warm, almost electric. The patterns of light under the surface responded to her touch, forming spirals that seemed to reach toward her palm. "We're going to help you," she whispered. The other aliens had given up on the creature, seeing only its materials and the profit they could extract. But humans had always been different. They helped when there was no reason to help. They tried when trying seemed impossible. Sarah didn't know if they could save something so massive and complex, but she knew they had to try. The alien ships left before dawn. Sarah watched their lights disappear into the star-filled sky, taking their harvested prizes with them. The Zenthari had loaded their vessels with crystalline bones. The HFY had torn away chunks of dense muscle tissue. The Keth had filled their cargo holds with glowing fluids. They left behind a dying creature and 8 humans who refused to give up. "Okay," Sarah said, standing at the edge of the crater as the sun rose. "What do we know?" Dr. Lisa Park consulted her scanner. "Its heart rate is dropping. Blood pressure is falling. But Doc, the readings don't make complete sense. This thing has 3 hearts and they're each the size of a building. Its blood isn't really blood, it's more like liquid energy." Rodriguez wiped grease from his hands. "I've been scanning the wounds the aliens made. The good news is they mostly took stuff from the outside. The bad news is this creature has injuries that go much deeper. Something tore holes in its side before it crashed. Those wounds are infected with some kind of space bacteria." "Space bacteria?" Jake looked up from his equipment. "Best guess. Whatever hit this thing in space left foreign organisms in the wounds. They're eating it from the inside." Sarah studied the creature's massive form. It breathed slowly, each breath taking almost a minute. The lights under its skin were dimmer than yesterday and the patterns moved more slowly. "So we need to clean the wounds and stop the infection," she said. "How do we operate on something this big?" "We don't," Rodriguez said. "Not with normal tools. But I have an idea." He led them to their cargo containers. Inside were the mining tools they'd brought for sample collection. Rodriguez had been busy during the night, taking apart and rebuilding equipment. "I've modified the plasma cutters to work as surgical instruments, low-power, precise cuts. The mining lasers can be tuned to sterilize infected tissue, and the cargo lifters can move equipment inside the wounds." Sarah stared at the jury-rigged medical tools. "You want to use mining equipment for surgery?" "It's what we have. The alternative is watching it die. Dr. Park was already studying the creature's vital signs on her scanner. Its nervous system is incredible. The brain is distributed throughout its body, not centralized like ours. That might be why it's still conscious despite the trauma. Is that good or bad? Good, because it means the damage isn't affecting its core consciousness. Bad, because it can feel everything we do to it. Sarah approached the creature's eye again. The massive organ tracked her movement. When she placed her hand on its hide, the patterns of light shifted toward her touch. "Can you understand me?" she asked. The answer came not as words, but as feelings. Pain, yes, but also recognition. The creature knew they were trying to help. Sarah felt its gratitude mixed with something like surprise, as if it had never experienced kindness from such small beings. "It knows we're here to help," she told the team. "Let's get to work." They started with the largest wound, a gash 20 feet long in the creature's side. Rodriguez lowered himself into the opening using a mining platform, his modified tools in hand. The space inside was like a cave of living tissue, walls that pulsed with each heartbeat. "I can see the infected areas," his voice crackled over the radio. "They're covered in some kind of gray sludge. It's definitely not part of the normal biology." "Cut it out," Sarah said. "Be careful not to damage healthy tissue." "Copy that. Starting surgical removal." The creature shuddered as Rodriguez began his work. Sarah felt waves of discomfort through her mental link with the being, but underneath was something else, relief. The infection was painful, and removing it hurt less than leaving it alone. Jake monitored the creature's vital signs while Dr. Park prepared antibiotic solutions in quantities measured by the gallon. They had to scale everything up to match their patient's size. "Heart rate is stabilizing," Jake reported. "Whatever Rodriguez is doing, it's working." The work was slow and dangerous. Rodriguez had to navigate around organs the size of houses, blood vessels big enough to swim through, and nerve clusters that sparked with electricity when touched. Every movement had to be careful and precise. "I need more light," Rodriguez called out. "And I think I found something weird." Sarah lowered herself into the wound using another mining platform. Inside the creature's body, the walls glowed with soft bioluminescence. It was like being inside a living cathedral. "What did you find?" Rodriguez pointed to a structure embedded in the creature's tissue. It looked artificial, made of metal that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. "This isn't part of its biology. It's some kind of implant." Sarah studied the device. It pulsed with energy that matched the creature's heartbeat. Maybe it's medical equipment. Something to help it survive in space. Or a weapon. Whatever attacked this thing might have left it behind. They worked for hours, cleaning infected tissue and removing foreign objects. The creature's blood, or energy fluid, kept trying to heal around their tools. Sarah had to constantly adjust their approach as the being's body adapted to their presence. "Doc," Jake's voice was urgent. "The other ships are coming back." Sarah climbed out of the wound to see lights approaching across the sky. The alien vessels were returning, but this time they brought friends. Dozens of ships from all three species descended toward the crater. A Xanthari administrator approached the human team. "Dr. Chen, you will cease your activities immediately." "Why?" "We're making progress, or you are interfering with authorized resource extraction. This specimen has been declared salvage. Your continued presence violates interspecies treaty." Sarah looked at the approaching ships. Some carried heavy equipment for stripping the creature down to its bones. Others were clearly military vessels armed and ready for trouble. "You gave up on it," she said. "You decided it was dead. We declared it terminal." "There is a difference. The specimen remains valuable for material extraction. It's not a specimen. It's a living being. A dying being. Your primitive medical intervention cannot change this fact." Rodriguez climbed out of the wound, his tools dripping with the creature's healing fluids. "Actually, I think we can. The infection is responding to treatment. Its vital signs are improving." The Xanthari's expression didn't change, but Sarah sensed surprise. "Impossible. Our analysis indicated terminal condition." "Your analysis was wrong." More aliens approached. Kethavar warriors in full battle armor surrounded the human team. Keth drones buzzed overhead like mechanical wasps. The message was clear. Leave or be removed by force. You have 1 hour to gather your equipment and depart, the Xanthari said. After that, we will resume authorized salvage operations. Sarah felt the creature's distress spike. It understood what was happening. Through their mental connection, she sensed its fear. Not of death, but of dying slowly while being carved apart by beings who saw it only as raw materials. "We're not leaving," Sarah said. The HFY warriors raised their weapons. "Then you will be removed." "Wait." Dr. Park stepped forward. "According to interspecies medical law, any being receiving active treatment cannot be declared salvage. As long as we're providing medical care, this creature is protected." The Zenthari paused. "You cite law intended for recognized species. This entity has no legal standing. It's sentient. It's aware. That's enough. Prove sentience within 1 hour, or be removed by force." The aliens withdrew to their ships, but they didn't leave. They waited and watched, ready to finish what they'd started. Sarah looked at her small team, then at the massive creature that depended on them. They had 1 hour to prove something that should have been obvious to anyone with a conscience, but humans had always been different. They fought for the underdog. They protected the helpless. They stood up to bullies even when outnumbered. "Back to work," Sarah said. "Let's save a life." The connection started as whispers in Sarah's mind. At first she thought it was just stress from the impossible situation. 8 humans trying to heal a creature the size of a small city, while 3 alien species waited to carve it up for parts. But the whispers became clearer as Rodriguez worked deeper inside the creature's wounds. Images flashed through Sarah's consciousness, not her own memories, but something else's. She saw stars being born, watched galaxies spin through eons of time, felt the loneliness of traveling through empty space for millions of years. "Doc, you okay?" Jake noticed her standing motionless, staring at nothing. I think it's trying to communicate." The images grew stronger. Sarah saw a school of massive creatures swimming through space between stars. They were like whales, but built for the vacuum of space instead of Earth's oceans. The one lying in the crater had been part of a pod, a family. More images flooded her mind. The creatures weren't just animals. They were gardeners of the cosmos, tending to stellar nurseries and guiding lost ships to safety. They prevented collisions between asteroids and planets. They stabilized dangerous space phenomena that could destroy entire systems. This one had been protecting a colony ship when something attacked. The images showed metal creatures, artificial beings that fed on living energy. They had ambushed the creature while it guided refugees to safety. It had fought them off, but not before taking terrible wounds. "It's not just an animal," Sarah whispered. "It's a guardian." Dr. Park looked up from her scanner readings. "What do you mean?" "It protects things. Space travelers, planets, entire star systems. It's been doing it for millions of years." Rodriguez's voice crackled from inside the wound. "That explains some of the weird organs I'm finding. This thing has sensors that can detect gravity waves, quantum fluctuations, even time distortions. It's like a living space station." The creature's gratitude washed over Sarah's mind. It had never encountered beings like humans before. Small, fragile creatures who helped without expecting anything in return. Most species either ignored it completely, or like the 3 alien groups outside, saw it only as a source of valuable materials. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. Jake checked his chronometer. 37 minutes before the aliens come back." "The infection is clearing up," Rodriguez reported. "But there's something else. This creature has been alone for a long time. I'm reading massive psychological trauma patterns in its neural tissue. It's not just physically wounded, it's heartbroken." Through the mental link, Sarah understood. The creature had watched its pod die one by one over the centuries. Some fell to attacks by the metal parasites. Others simply grew old and faded away. This one had continued its duties alone, protecting a galaxy that mostly didn't know it existed. It needs more than medical treatment, she realized. It needs to know it's not alone anymore. Sarah placed both hands on the creature's hide. The patterns of light under its skin responded immediately, forming complex geometries that seemed to reach toward her touch. She opened her mind to the connection, letting the creature know that humans understood its pain. The response was overwhelming. The creature's joy hit her like a tsunami of emotion. For the first time in eons, it felt truly seen and valued by another intelligent species. "Doc, the readings are going crazy," Dr. Park called out. "Its vital signs are stabilizing faster than should be possible. It's like our presence is healing it on a cellular level." Rodriguez emerged from the wound, his tools glowing with residual energy from the creature's body. "The tissue is regenerating around my surgical sites. I've never seen anything like it. It's not just healing, it's evolving, adapting to work better with our equipment." The ground began to tremble. Not from seismic activity this time, but from the creature itself. It was trying to move for the first time since the crash. The massive being slowly, carefully lifted its head. Outside the crater, alarms blared from the alien ships. The three species had never seen a creature this large move while they were close to it. Some of the smaller vessels lifted off, putting distance between themselves and the awakening giant. Through the mental link, Sarah felt the creature's consciousness fully engage for the first time since its crash. It had been operating on survival instincts alone, but now its full intelligence was coming online, and that intelligence was vast beyond human comprehension. The creature shared more images. Sarah saw the galaxy as it truly was, not empty space dotted with isolated worlds, but a living ecosystem where every star, every planet, every species played a role. The creatures like this one were the caretakers, ensuring that life could flourish across the cosmos. But the metal parasites were spreading. They consumed life energy and left dead systems in their wake. The guardian species had been fighting them for millennia, but their numbers were dwindling. This creature might be one of the last of its kind. It's been fighting to protect us, Sarah told her team. All of us. Every living thing in the galaxy. Fighting what? Jake asked. Before Sarah could answer, the creature's massive eye turned skyward. Through the mental link, she felt its sudden alarm. Something was coming. Something dangerous. Rodriguez was monitoring long-range sensors. Doc, I'm picking up energy signatures approaching the system. They're moving fast and they're big. The creature's distress spiked. Sarah saw images of the metal parasites, their ships like geometric nightmares that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. They had followed the creature's trail, drawn by its wounded condition. How long until they get here? Sarah asked. 6 hours, maybe 7. The alien ships outside the crater were receiving the same sensor data. Sarah could see them powering up weapons and preparing for battle. But through the creature's memories, she knew conventional weapons were useless against the parasites. They fed on energy, growing stronger with each attack. The creature tried to stand, but its injuries were still too severe. It managed to lift its head and part of its torso, but collapsed back down with a sound like thunder. Frustration and fear radiated through the mental link. It wants to protect us, Sarah realized, but it's too weak to fight. How long does it need to recover? Dr. Park asked. Sarah consulted the creature's own assessment of its condition. Days, maybe weeks. We don't have that kind of time. Rodriguez was already thinking like an engineer. What if we don't wait for it to heal naturally? What if we help it get back on its feet? How? External support systems, mechanical assists. We can't heal its internal injuries instantly, but we might be able to supplement its strength. Jake stared at him. You want to build a robotic suit for something the size of a city? Not a suit. More like crutches. External frameworks to support damaged areas, mechanical assists for movement, life support supplements for the healing process. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of crazy plan that humans specialized in. The mining equipment, Sarah said. We can adapt it. The atmospheric processors, too. And the cargo handling systems from our ship. Dr. Park was already running calculations. If we can stabilize its circulation with external pumps and support its skeletal structure with mechanical frameworks, it might work, Sarah finished. But we'll need help. Through the mental link, the creature offered something unexpected. It could interface with human technology directly, guide their efforts through the psychic connection. Together they could build something neither could create alone. The aliens outside aren't going to like this, Jake pointed out. Sarah looked at the circle of ships surrounding the crater. The three species were arguing among themselves, their communications channels buzzing with debate about how to handle the approaching threat. They can either help us or get out of our way, she said. Because we're not abandoning this creature. Not now, not ever. The mental link pulsed with the creature's gratitude and determination. For the first time in eons, it wasn't alone in its fight to protect the galaxy. It had found allies who understood that some things were worth any sacrifice. The creature's true power manifested when the metal parasites entered the system. Sarah felt it first. Through the mental link, a sudden shift in the creature's consciousness as it detected the approaching threat. The massive being had been conserving its strength, focusing on healing, but now ancient instincts awakened. Space twisted above the crater. What the hell? Rodriguez stared at his instruments. Gravitational readings just went off the charts. It's like something is bending reality itself. The creature's hide blazed with light as energy coursed through patterns that covered its entire body. The air around the crater shimmered, and Sarah felt her inner ear struggle with sudden changes in local gravity. Through the mental link, she experienced what the creature was doing. It wasn't just a guardian of space, it was a guardian of space-time itself. The massive being could manipulate gravity, bend the fabric of reality, and influence the fundamental forces that held the universe together. High above the planet, 3 dark ships had appeared at the edge of the system. They looked wrong, their surfaces absorbing light instead of reflecting it. The metal parasites had arrived, drawn by the creature's psychic emanations. The creature reached out with senses that existed beyond normal space. Sarah felt it happening through their connection. The being was touching the quantum structure of reality itself, making minute adjustments to prevent the parasites from entering the inner system. One of the dark ships simply stopped. Not destroyed, not damaged, but frozen in space as if time itself had paused around it. The second ship found its navigation system scrambled as the creature adjusted local spacetime to redirect its course into empty void. The third ship began firing weapons, but its energy beams curved away from the planet, following distorted gravity wells that sent them harmlessly into space. "Impossible," whispered the Xanthari administrator who had been monitoring from his ship. "No single organism possesses such capabilities." Dr. Park's scanners were recording everything. Its brain activity is off the charts. The energy output is comparable to a small star. But Doc, it's burning through its reserves too fast. This is going to kill it. Sarah felt the creature's strain through their connection. Using its powers while injured was like running a marathon with broken ribs. Every manipulation of space-time tore at wounds that were still healing. But the creature refused to stop. Through the mental link, Sarah saw why. The metal parasites weren't just here for this world. They were scouting, testing the defenses of an entire sector. If they succeeded here, they would bring a full invasion fleet to consume every living thing within 50 light-years. The alien ships surrounding the crater were in chaos. Kethavar warriors who had never known fear found themselves terrified by forces beyond their understanding. Keth drones buzzed frantically as their hive minds struggled to process what they were witnessing. The Xanthari, masters of logic and calculation, discovered that some things couldn't be quantified. "We must evacuate immediately," the Xanthari administrator broadcast. "This entity possesses planet-killing capabilities." "No," Sarah said, her voice carrying across all communication channels. "It's protecting us. Protecting. It has weapons beyond our comprehension. Those aren't weapons. They're tools. This creature has been guarding our entire region of space for millions of years. Every safe hyperspace lane, every stable orbit, every cosmic disaster that mysteriously never happened. That was this species doing their job." Rodriguez had figured out the creature's support framework, using mining equipment and ship components to create external braces for its damaged limbs. As he worked, the creature shared more of its memories with Sarah. She saw the galaxy as it had been eons ago, filled with creatures like this one. They had maintained cosmic balance, preventing stellar catastrophes and guiding the evolution of life itself. They were the reason intelligent species had been able to develop at all. But the metal parasites had hunted them almost to extinction. The creatures were too powerful to destroy directly, so the parasites had used subtlety instead. They infected stellar nurseries with destructive quantum viruses. They altered asteroid orbits to create system-killing impacts. They corrupted the cosmic infrastructure that the Guardians had spent millions of years building. One by one, the Guardian creatures had died fighting to preserve life in the galaxy. Some fell in direct battle. Others burned themselves out trying to repair the damage the parasites caused. This creature might be the very last of its kind. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Sarah asked through the mental link. "Why didn't you ask for help?" The answer came as a wave of bitter experience. The creature had tried to communicate with younger species, but most either ignored it or feared its power. Some had even attacked it thinking it was a threat. Over time, it had learned to work from the shadows, protecting civilizations that never knew it existed. "Not anymore," Sarah said aloud. "Things are going to change." The battle in space was intensifying. The metal parasites had deployed smaller craft, swarms of geometric horrors that moved like living things despite being mechanical. The creature was holding them back, but each use of its powers cost more energy than it could spare. "It's dying," Dr. Park reported. "Using its abilities while injured is causing massive internal damage." Then we help it, Rodriguez said. The support framework is almost ready. If we can take some of the physical strain off its body, that's not enough, Sarah realized. It needs more than mechanical support. It needs another mind to share the load. Through the mental link, she felt the creature's surprise. In millions of years, it had never considered the possibility of truly sharing its burden with another species. The Guardians had always worked alone, their consciousness too vast and alien for smaller minds to comprehend. But humans were different. They had something the creature had never encountered before, the ability to adapt, to grow beyond their apparent limitations when necessary. "Teach me," Sarah said through the connection. "Show me how to help." The creature hesitated. What it was asking would change Sarah forever. To share in its cosmic awareness meant leaving purely human consciousness behind. She would become something new, something that existed partially outside normal space-time. "Do it," she said. The transformation began slowly. Sarah felt her awareness expand beyond her physical body. She could sense the quantum structure of reality, feel the gravitational currents that flowed between stars, touch the fundamental forces that shaped the universe. It was overwhelming and beautiful and terrifying all at once. She was still Sarah Chen, but she was also something more. Her consciousness now spanned multiple dimensions, her thoughts moving at the speed of thought itself. Together, she and the creature reached out to stop the parasite's advance. The strain was enormous, but shared between two minds, it was survivable. The dark ships found themselves trapped in recursive space-time loops, their weapons useless against defenses that existed in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, the alien observers watched in stunned silence as a human being performed feats that should have been impossible for any organic mind. The careful boundaries they had drawn between species, the hierarchies of technological and psychic advancement, suddenly seemed meaningless. "How?" the Zenthari administrator whispered. "Compassion," Sarah replied, her voice now carrying harmonics that existed beyond normal sound. "We helped when others walked away. We stayed when others gave up. And in return, we've been offered something beyond price, a chance to become guardians ourselves." The metal parasites, faced with defenses they couldn't overcome, began to retreat. But Sarah could sense their intentions through the quantum link. They would return with a larger fleet, bringing weapons designed specifically to counter Guardian abilities. "This isn't over," she told the creature. "No," came the reply, tinged with ancient sadness. "But for the first time in eons, I am not facing it alone." The other humans were staring at Sarah with mixtures of awe and concern. She looked the same, but something fundamental had changed. When she smiled at them, they could see stars reflected in her eyes. "Don't worry," she said. "I'm still me. Just more." Above them, the creature slowly began to rise, supported by Rodriguez's mechanical framework and strengthened by its bond with humanity. For the first time in millions of years, a guardian was not alone in its cosmic duties. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their refusal to abandon those who needed help, even when that help came at an unimaginable cost. 10 years after the first contact, the galaxy had learned to fear and respect the humans in equal measure. Sarah stood on the observation deck of the orbital station that humans had built around the creature's new home. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see her partner. The being that had once been dying in a crater was now healthy and strong, its massive form gracefully swimming through the space between planets. The creature had grown since their bonding, not just physically but in capability. The partnership with humanity had taught it new ways to use its ancient powers. Where once it had worked alone, now it coordinated with human vessels that carried bonded pairs across the galaxy. "Status report," Sarah said, her enhanced consciousness touching the quantum communication network that connected all Guardian teams. Rodriguez, now bonded with a younger creature that had been born from their partnership, replied from the Vega system. "Pirate fleet neutralized. They thought they could raid the colony ships by hiding in hyperspace. Big mistake." Dr. Park, working with her own Guardian partner near the galactic core, sent images of a stellar nursery they had saved from metal parasite corruption. 17 new star systems preserved. The infection is completely cleared. Jake Morrison, whose consciousness now spanned multiple dimensions, reported from the edge of known space. Found another survivor. She's been hiding in a nebula for the past 1,000,000 years. Bringing her home for healing. Sarah smiled at the reports. The Guardian program had grown beyond their wildest dreams. When the creature had first offered to share its burden with humanity, they thought it would be just a few volunteers. Instead, thousands of humans had stepped forward, willing to undergo the transformation that allowed them to work with the cosmic beings. Not everyone survived the process. The changes required to interface with Guardian consciousness were extensive, and some human minds couldn't handle the expansion. But those who succeeded became something unprecedented in galactic history. Species that had voluntarily evolved beyond its original nature to serve a greater purpose. The three alien species that had originally dismissed the humans were no longer so confident. A Zenthari delegation had arrived at the station that morning requesting an audience. Sarah met them in the conference room, her appearance still recognizably human but with eyes that held depths no baseline human could possess. Administrator Vex, she greeted the lead Zenthari. What brings you here? The gray alien's precise movements showed unusual nervousness. Dr. Chen, we have come to request assistance. What kind of assistance? Our mining operations in the Centauri region have encountered difficulties. Ships are disappearing. Our long-range sensors detect spatial anomalies that our scientists cannot explain. Sarah already knew about the Centauri situation through the Guardian network. The Zenthari had been strip mining asteroids without regard for the delicate gravitational balance of the system. Their activities had destabilized local space-time, creating tiers in reality that attracted metal parasites. You want us to clean up your mess? Sarah said. Yes. Our technology is insufficient for the task. Why should we help you? When we needed assistance saving the Guardian, you chose profit over compassion. Administrator Vex's large black eyes blinked slowly. Because you are human, your species helps even when others do not deserve it. Sarah considered this. The Zenthari were right. Humans did tend to help even former enemies. But 10 years of serving as cosmic guardians had taught her that some lessons could only be learned through consequence. We'll help, she said finally, but there will be conditions. Name them. First, your mining operations in gravitationally sensitive areas will be supervised by Guardian teams. Second, you will provide funding and resources for Guardian training programs. Third, you will publicly acknowledge what really happened 10 years ago. Acknowledge that you abandoned a dying being to strip it for parts. That humans saved something you declared worthless. That your species chose profit over compassion and were wrong. The alien delegation exchanged glances. For a logical species like the Zenthari, admitting error was difficult, but the alternative was losing access to the galaxy's only defense against spatial anomalies and metal parasite incursions. Agreed, Administrator Vex said. After the Zenthari left, Sarah returned to the observation deck. Her Guardian partner approached the station, its massive form moving with impossible grace through the vacuum of space. Even after 10 years, the sight filled her with wonder. Through their mental link, the creature shared its contentment. For eons it had been alone, watching civilizations rise and fall while it worked endlessly to maintain cosmic balance. Now it had companions, partners who shared both its burden and its purpose. But more than that, it had hope. The Guardian species was no longer dying out. Human-Guardian partnerships were producing offspring, young beings that inherited both human adaptability and Guardian power. The next generation would be even stronger, even more capable of protecting life throughout the galaxy. Contact from the Outer Rim came a transmission through the quantum network. It was Commander Torres, a human who had bonded with one of the most powerful Guardians they had found. We've discovered something big. Sarah opened her consciousness to receive the full report. Torres and her partner had been investigating reports of an entire sector going dark. No communications, no ships, no signs of life. What they found defied explanation. The metal parasites hadn't just attacked the sector, they had consumed it entirely, leaving behind a region of space where matter itself had been converted into their geometric forms. It was an infection on a scale they had never encountered before. How many systems? Sarah asked. 47, all dead. And the infection is spreading. Sarah felt her Guardian partner's distress through their link. The creature had seen parasitic infections before, but nothing this massive. If it continued to spread, it could consume entire galactic arms. Gather all available teams, Sarah ordered. Emergency Protocol 7. Within hours, Guardian pairs from across the galaxy began converging on the infected sector. Ships carrying bonded humans and their massive partners moved through hyperspace at speeds that defied conventional physics. The sight of so many Guardians traveling together was unprecedented, a fleet of living beings larger than most moons, accompanied by vessels crewed by humans who had transcended their original limitations. The alien species watched this mobilization with mixtures of awe and terror. The humans had become something beyond their original nature, but they retained their essential humanity, the compassion that drove them to protect others, even at great personal cost. As Sarah's ship approached the dead sector, she felt the wrongness of the place through her enhanced senses. Space itself had been corrupted, twisted into forms that hurt to perceive. The metal parasites had created a beachhead for something larger, something that threatened not just life but the fundamental structure of reality. This is what they were building toward, her Guardian partner communicated. All the small attacks, all the individual infections, they were preparation for this. Sarah opened a channel to all Guardian teams. Listen carefully. What we're facing isn't just an invasion. It's an attempt to convert our entire region of space into something alien. If we fail here, the infection will spread until there's nothing left but metal and emptiness. Orders? Asked Rodriguez. We do what humans do best, Sarah replied. We stand together against impossible odds and protect what we love. The battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. But this time, the forces of life had guardians who combined ancient cosmic wisdom with human determination. The metal parasites had spent eons hunting down the guardian species, never imagining that their actions would eventually create something stronger, a partnership between two very different forms of consciousness united by a shared commitment to protecting life. As the Guardian fleet prepared to enter the infected sector, Sarah thought about the dying creature they had found in a crater 10 years ago. The aliens had seen only raw materials to be harvested. Humans had seen a life worth saving. That difference had changed everything. Now the galaxy would learn what happened when humanity's greatest strength, their refusal to abandon others, was combined with the power to reshape reality itself. The stars themselves would bear witness to the birth of a new age, one where guardianship was no longer a lonely burden, but a shared purpose. The metal parasites had made one critical error in their eons-long campaign against life. They had underestimated the power of compassion, the strength that came from caring about others more than yourself. They were about to learn why that was a mistake they would not survive.